Welcome, gents. Here's the truth. A Sigma male who spends most of his time alone has found something most people never will: freedom. Not just freedom from people, but from needing people, from relying on others for validation, and from the empty routine society often expects everyone to follow. While others look outside to find meaning, the Sigma male goes inward, building strength, clarity, and purpose without anyone else's input. And that makes him powerful. When a man chooses solitude, he isn't escaping the world, he's understanding it on his own terms. He isn't afraid to question society's rules, confront uncomfortable truths, or live without constant approval. This independence makes him hard to influence, nearly impossible to manipulate, and even a little intimidating. People feel it when they're around him, the confidence that comes from relying only on himself. They sense he isn't desperate to fit in or be liked, and that in itself is rare. So to all the Sigma males out there, know this: your time alone isn't a weakness, it's a source of strength that most people can't even imagine. The more you embrace it, the more grounded and unshakable you become. Your independence is your edge. Let others see it as dangerous if they want. The truth is, they're seeing in you what they wish they could find in themselves. And that quiet power, it's the mark of a man who's free. So, gentlemen, stick around with me until we get to the very end. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Number 10. Builds inner worlds beyond others' reach. When a Sigma male spends loads of time alone, he doesn't just twiddle his thumbs or binge TV, he's busy building an entire universe inside his own head. Picture a mental realm packed with ideas, strategies, insights, and a few odd quirks thrown in for fun. This inner world is so rich and detailed that it makes a regular life seem almost dull. He's got layers upon layers of thoughts and motivations, and they're not the kind you can just ask about over coffee. So, when he does step out to engage with people, they can sense there's something different about him, something they can't quite get a hold of. He might be listening, even sharing a bit, but there's always this feeling that he's only showing a small slice of what's really going on in his mind. To others, he becomes this fascinating mystery, a puzzle they can't solve no matter how much they poke and prod. It's almost like he's playing a game they don't even know the rules to. And here's where it gets dangerous. Because no one can truly reach his inner world, they don't know what drives him or what he's capable of. His thoughts, his motivations, they're his, and his alone. People may try to figure him out, but all they find is that he's operating on a different wavelength altogether. That kind of depth is captivating, sure, but also a bit intimidating. He's like an iceberg, and most people only see the tip. Number 9. Able to blur the line between presence and absence. A Sigma male who spends a lot of time alone becomes something of a ghost. There one moment, mentally checked out the next, and all while sitting right across from you. It's like he's mastered the art of strategic absence, even when he's physically present. He could be nodding along in a conversation, but there's this distant look in his eyes, like he's half here, half somewhere else entirely. And let's be honest, it's a little unsettling. You start to feel like you're talking to a hologram or a shadow, someone who's slipping in and out of reality. This ability to blur between presence and absence is part of what makes him so hard to figure out. And that's where the danger kicks in. People thrive on predictability, on knowing what makes someone tick. But with him, good luck. He's selectively engaged, picking and choosing when he'll tune into a conversation and when he'll drift off to the depths of his own mind. His focus isn't something anyone else controls, it's entirely his, and that keeps others on their toes. What makes it dangerous? People realize they can't fully grasp him. They can't count on his reactions or anticipate his thoughts. This almost ghostly, elusive presence has a way of unsettling others, making them feel like they're dealing with someone who's operating on another level. Someone who's impossible to pin down, and maybe even a little too powerful in his quiet, unpredictable way. Number 8. He develops hyper-focused goals. When a Sigma male spends time alone, he's like a human laser beam, focused, intense, and completely undistracted. There's no one else around throwing in their 2 cents, no opinions from every corner of the room confusing his path. Instead, it's just him and his goal, zeroed in with surgical precision. That kind of focus is rare, and it makes him an absolute powerhouse at accomplishing what he sets out to do. While others are constantly juggling opinions or trying to get a like from the world, he's deep into his own plan, free from the need for validation or constant approval. He doesn't need a cheer squad. He's perfectly happy pushing himself forward. And with that clear, hyper-focused drive, he's constantly taking steps that others miss because they're too busy looking over their shoulders. The beauty of it? Because he's so locked into his goals, he's not tempted by the easy distractions or empty compliments that steer others off course. He doesn't need the high fives and good jobs to keep going. To him, success isn't about applause, it's about mastery. And while everyone else might see him as too intense or a little intimidating, he's too focused to care. In his solitude, he's built something most people can only wish for: a clear path to exactly where he wants to go. And in today's noisy world, that's a powerful and a little dangerous advantage. Number 7. Learns to see fear as a puzzle, not a barrier. When a Sigma male spends time alone, he starts to view fear differently. Instead of letting it stop him in his tracks, he treats it like a puzzle, something to be understood, dissected, and ultimately conquered. He's not the type to run from discomfort or uncertainty. In fact, he's far more likely to face it head-on and break it down into smaller, manageable pieces. What exactly am I afraid of here, he'll ask himself, and how can I work through it? This mindset doesn't just make him fearless. It makes him almost immune to the things that shake other people. Risks that would make most folks pause or second-guess themselves are simply challenges he's already mentally prepared for. Because when you've spent enough time alone, wrestling with your own thoughts and fears, you start to see them for what they really are: temporary, solvable problems. Fear becomes just another obstacle to work through rather than something to avoid, and here's where it gets interesting. When others see him handle fear with such calm and clarity, it creates this powerful, silent contrast. They feel their own insecurities and hesitations stand out in comparison. It's not that he's trying to show them up, he's simply moved past the emotional blocks that most people trip over. His ability to handle fear without letting it control him makes him seem almost otherworldly. And that's where the danger lies. He's not just confronting challenges, he's mastering them. Thank you for being a valued subscriber, gents. Your ongoing support is greatly appreciated and motivates us to continue creating meaningful content. We truly value your engagement. Number 6. Accumulates knowledge as a form of quiet power. When a Sigma male spends time alone, he's not just zoning out in front of the TV or scrolling mindlessly through social media. Oh no, he's soaking up knowledge like a sponge. Books, articles, podcasts, philosophies, skills, you name it. He's quietly building an arsenal of information, and it's not about flexing for others or impressing anyone. It's just his way of collecting power, but in a way that's sneaky and low-key. He's not out here trying to dominate the conversation or make everyone know how much he knows. Instead, he's gathering knowledge for his own benefit, creating an inner strength that can't be measured by superficial standards. So when he does interact with people, it's almost like watching someone who's been living in the future. The depth of his understanding catches others off guard. He'll drop a casual reference to a book, a concept, or an obscure idea, and suddenly you realize you're not even on the same intellectual playing field. And here's the kicker. It's not a competition for him. It's just how he operates. His quiet accumulation of knowledge has given him an intellectual authority that's almost impossible to challenge because he's not playing the same game as everyone else. This makes him dangerous, though. People might try to argue with him or challenge his ideas, but they're usually outpaced before they even realize it. It's not arrogance, it's just that in the quiet of his solitude, he's become a walking encyclopedia, and there's little room for anyone to catch up. And number 5, unintentionally sparks a sense of competition in others. A Sigma male who spends most of his time alone isn't out here trying to compete with anyone. In fact, he couldn't care less about the idea of winning anyone's approval or validation. But here's the twist. That very indifference to competition ends up creating it in others. It's like a weird, invisible magnetism that draws people into a race they didn't even sign up for. The thing is, when he's around, Others start feeling this unspoken pressure to measure up. Why? Because he's completely self-contained. He doesn't need anyone's praise or attention to feel validated, which for some is like an open challenge. His quiet confidence and self-sufficiency make others question their own position in the social hierarchy. Why isn't he impressed? Shouldn't I be doing something to earn his approval? And suddenly, there's this undercurrent of competition that wasn't there before. What makes this so dangerous? Well, the Sigma male is completely oblivious to the fact that he's sparking a competition. He's just living his life, doing his thing, and not playing the social game. But because of his lack of interest in validation, people around him can feel this subtle need to prove themselves. The tension builds. They push themselves to outdo him or gain his respect in ways that could lead to unhealthy rivalry. But the more they try, the more they realize they're competing against an invisible standard, one they might never reach, all while he's just too busy doing his own thing. Number 4. Builds routines that are invisible yet impeccably structured. A Sigma male who spends a lot of time alone is a master of invisible routines. He doesn't need anyone breathing down his neck to keep him on track because his discipline is entirely self-sustained. His daily structure might look like a bunch of random moments to the outside world, but in his mind it's a well-oiled machine, efficient, streamlined, and designed to push him toward his goals. The thing is, no one else sees these routines. To an outsider, it might seem like he's just casually going through the motions of life, maybe even a little aimless at times, but that's where they're wrong. His routine is so ingrained and natural that it appears effortless. He's always moving forward, slowly but steadily, without any need for applause or recognition. His progress isn't something that gets measured in real time. It's hidden, bubbling beneath the surface, until one day, bam, he's achieved something remarkable and no one saw it coming. This ability to quietly build momentum makes him dangerous in the most understated way. People tend to underestimate him because they don't realize the structure he's operating within. They think he's not doing anything, when in reality, he's making moves behind the scenes, crafting the foundation for his next big leap. And when he finally shows the results of all that invisible work, it's often so far ahead of where others are, they're left playing catch-up. Number 3. Explores mental extremes, building psychological fortitude. A Sigma male who spends a lot of time alone isn't afraid to venture into the deep, uncomfortable corners of his own mind. While most people shy away from confronting their darkest thoughts or challenging their deepest beliefs, he dives right in. He explores mental extremes, philosophies, ideas, even fears that others would rather leave untouched. It's not because he's a masochist, but because he knows that the more he faces these uncomfortable mental spaces, the stronger he becomes. This kind of mental exploration builds psychological fortitude. It's like weightlifting for the brain, pushing himself to confront and understand things that would shake most people. And here's the kicker. It makes him incredibly hard to shock or manipulate. While others might be caught off guard by a provocative statement or a new idea, he's already been there, done that, and come out the other side unscathed. What makes this even more dangerous is how unsettling it is for others. People can sense that he's not afraid of his own darkness, his own flaws, or his own contradictions. He's looked at them, examined them, and found peace with them. This gives him a level of mental clarity and resilience that's hard to match. And for others, it's unnerving. He doesn't just accept the light side of life, he embraces the full spectrum of it, making him even more enigmatic and difficult to predict. People are left wondering just how deep the rabbit hole goes, and that's what makes him dangerous. Number 2. Unconsciously tests people's authenticity. A Sigma male who spends most of his time alone doesn't need to consciously test people's authenticity. He does it without even trying. His lifestyle, built on self-sufficiency and independence, naturally forces others to reckon with their own truths. He doesn't play the social game or rely on external validation, which creates an invisible pressure for those around him to drop their facades. There's no need for him to actively judge. His very presence acts as a mirror, reflecting people's insecurities and prompting them to either be real or reveal their masks. This is where it gets interesting, Because he doesn't give off any overt signs of judgment, people often feel exposed without him having said a word. The silence is loud. He doesn't need to ask deep, probing questions. His mere existence forces others to question their own authenticity. It's like he's a human litmus test, quietly measuring whether the person in front of him is being true to themselves or just putting on a show. And here's the kicker. Most people don't even realize they're being tested until they've already given something away. For those who thrive on surface-level interactions or playing roles, this silent pressure can be unnerving. The Sigma male's unspoken influence puts people on edge, making them second-guess their words, actions, and motives. The beauty is that he doesn't care if they pass or fail. He's too busy living his own truth. But for others, it's a reality check they didn't see coming. Number 2, transform silence into a personal weapon of truth. A Sigma male who spends a lot of time alone doesn't just tolerate silence, he wields it like a weapon. While most people panic in awkward quiet moments and rush to fill the space with empty words, he's perfectly comfortable letting silence hang in the air. And this is where it gets interesting. He uses silence not as a void, but as a tool for truth. When someone tries to sidestep an uncomfortable topic or dance around the facts, he doesn't jump in to fill the gaps with reassurances or small talk. Instead, he lets the silence sit there, heavy and unyielding. What happens next? People begin to feel the pressure. Silence has a way of forcing people to confront their own discomforts, their own lies, and their own evasions. The longer the silence stretches, the more they feel the need to fill it with honesty, just to escape the uncomfortable stillness. It's like he's created a space where the truth becomes unavoidable. This ability to transform silence into a personal weapon of truth makes the Sigma male seem almost ruthlessly honest. He doesn't need to say much. He doesn't even need to ask questions. The silence does the work for him. And here's the kicker. People know it. They can feel the unspoken challenge, the pressure to be real. For those who would rather avoid confrontation or dodge tough conversations, it's disarming. For the Sigma, though, it's just another way to cut through the noise and get to the heart of the matter. Number 1, he becomes a deep thinker. When a Sigma male spends tons of time alone, he doesn't just fill that quiet space with mindless noise. He uses it to think deeply. While others might be scrolling through their phones or distracted by small talk, he's diving headfirst into his own thoughts, making connections and dissecting everything he's learned. This solitude gives him the luxury of sorting through information on his own terms, without anyone rushing him along or feeding him pre-packaged answers. It's like he's got a personal mental gym, and trust me, he's getting ripped in there. This deep thinking isn't just about overanalyzing his lunch choices. No, he's seeing things that others completely miss. When he's faced with people or situations, he can spot the hidden motives, the little manipulations, and even the lies that everyone else overlooks. It's as if he has X-ray vision for intentions, and honestly, that can be a bit dangerous, especially for anyone trying to pull one over on him. He's got this surgical understanding of people and situations that allows him to see beneath the surface, often catching others off guard with how sharply he gets what's really going on. He can walk into a room, listen quietly, and already know who's real, who's pretending, and who's hiding something. It's not that he's judging everyone. It's just that he's trained his mind so well that fakeness sticks out like a sore thumb. And that makes him someone you don't want to underestimate. As we wrap up, conclusion on a Sigma male who always spends time alone is very dangerous. So, why is a Sigma male who spends a lot of time alone such a powerful force? Because he knows himself in ways most people never will. In solitude, he sharpened his mind, solidified his beliefs, and built a life that doesn't rely on approval or attention. He's not here to play by anyone else's rules, nor does he get lost in the noise of others' opinions. This independence gives him a focus and resilience that few can match. When he speaks, it's purposeful. When he acts, it's decisive. He's built an inner world where clarity and truth come first, making him immune to distractions and manipulation. And here's the real beauty. He's not dangerous in the typical sense of the word. He's not out to harm anyone or force his way of life onto others. Instead, his danger lies in his unshakable presence and the way he challenges people to be real, simply by being unapologetically himself. For those on a similar path, it's an inspiring example of what can be achieved through self-reliance and introspection. So if you're a Sigma male or feel yourself drawn to this mindset, know this: your solitude isn't a weakness, it's your strength. Use it to keep building yourself up, to keep learning and growing on your own terms. The world might never fully understand you, but that's fine. Keep blazing your own trail. The path you're on may be quiet, but it's also profoundly powerful. Thank you, gents, for tuning in, and God bless.